on Yonkers Voice, and as promised, our mayor, Mike Spano, is here to talk about what's coming, okay, and to make sure that people come out and vote. We are about 17 days, 15 days.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? I think it's 16 days, right?
16 days.
And it's, yeah, this is it. And early voting will start soon. And then, of course, you know, so we're right in the thick of things.
So, Mayor, we had a few interviews about your plans, about your vision, about what's coming up for Yonkers the last 4 years. And this will be it, unless, I don't know, in 4 years you'll tell me you're running again. But this is it, right?
You know what? You know, you never say never in this business, but I will tell you this. I think that if we didn't get hit with COVID was, while COVID was an important time to be mayor, it also stopped a lot of things from happening for 2 straight years. And so it's nice to be able to give it an opportunity to finish much of the work that I've started and to start a lot of other new things that Yonkers, that we're hoping we can get forward, move forward from Yonkers.
Moving forward. Yonkers, let's talk about moving forward. What is it that you have not accomplished? Or you have probably, well, I'm sure that the things that you are going to finish are things that you already started working on it. But what are the important things in your book? Everything is important, I know that, but what's the most?
Well, you know what, there are a lot of things that we've started that we want to see finished. And then, like I said, at the same time, I think people, Yonkers, want to know what is our plan for the future as well. Nobody wants to watch you the rest of your laurels, and I get that. But we have 3 new schools built. Justice Sonia Sotomayor School will come online September 24. We also have, and it's nearly done, anybody drives down McLean Avenue, you can see it looks beautiful. We also have been working with Lionsgate and with Great Point Studios on a new high school that will be built in the old Leakin Watts property, a magnet school where our kids will be given the opportunity to go from 6th grade to 12th grade and learn all about the TV industry. And they'll learn all about it, and 75 kids a year will graduate from that school, and 75 kids will have an opportunity to work in any one of the studios that will be a part of the Great Point, Lionsgate, and some others that I'm not at liberty to talk about yet, but Media Pro, which I can talk about. We have 3 studios that are being built right now. We have 3 studios that are going to be open soon on Warburg Avenue, and we'll announce the name of the studios that will be there. So we're excited, but we want to make sure that we get those 22 total studios built. We want to make sure that we get these schools built. We have a number of parks, especially the one on Mellow Street, that we finally purchased the property. The park's not built yet, and so we're going to build that park. We have so many great things happening. I want to see it. I want to see it all through.
Now, Mayor, before we go into other segments, other things, let's stay on the education. Graduation rate is awesome, but your critics, when we need to address, because this is an interview, we have to talk about the pros and the cons, they are saying that those graduation rates are really not a reflection of what it's supposed to be. That many are getting to college and don't know how to read well. Comprehension is not there. That we are just graduating them without really deserving. So on paper, looks like a high rate, you know.
Yeah, no,
is it true?
Because that's suggesting that somebody's doing something illegal. And if that's the case, then I would say that you should just come out. Somebody should just, rather than make an accusation like that,
show the facts.
Show us the facts. You know, remember, New York State monitors these scores. These are scores that are put forth by the Department of Education, and I trust them, and I trust our teachers are doing what they ought to be doing. Now, that doesn't mean that our kids don't have struggles. Every urban center does. When you have children in the Yonkers School District who live 75% of them at or below the rate of poverty, we know the biggest obstacle in getting a good education, single, nothing else matters. The biggest obstacle in getting a good education is not a language barrier, it's poverty. Poverty is up here, everything else is way down below. And so we want to make sure that our kids have the tools necessary. And over the years, since we've been here, we have put more money into our schools than any administration previous to us. And over the years since we've been here, we've invested over $300 million in the infrastructure of our schools. Not just building new schools, but repairing our schools, putting in new systems and new windows, and making them safer for our kids, so they're not learning in a classroom where the roofs are leaking. And so, with the city council's help, we were able to invest a lot of money in our schools, and we also put in place new programs like My Brother's Keeper, which are having a positive impact on the community, and we're being recognized by that by Barack Obama. So, yes, do kids in urban centers need more support and help, especially from the federal government and state government? They do, and our job isn't done. But you can't escape the success that we've seen so far. We have a lot more work to do, but we've done a lot of great things.
So we're not there yet, but we are on the way there.
I won't be happy till 100% of our kids graduate, and I won't be happy until we have, when you want to talk about equalizing the playing field, it's by making sure that everyone has a chance at education. If everyone's getting the same type of education, if I don't have to go to Scarsdale to get a certain education, I can get it right here in Yonkers, New York, right? That's the best thing we can do for our kids, no matter what their economic situation is.
At this point, I have to give a shout out to Dos Marias, 200 New Main Street in Yonkers. This is the best place for Mexican food, make new friends, mix and mingle, and get to know new people. You come here once in a while, right, Mayor?
The best guacamole in town.
So come and try the guacamole. So every Tuesday they have a special taco day. So guys, come on down. Let's not just talk about supporting our local business. Let's do more than just talking about it. Let's actually support them. Come on down, 200 New Main Street in Yonkers, New York. Mayor, right here around your office, City Hall, we go around and we see a lot of homeless people. None of us are happy with the homeless. I'm sure that you're not happy because we all wish every person had a roof over their heads. But the reality is there are a lot of homeless around. People are complaining. And I want to ask you this question, not for my own, because I know what the answer is, but so people who are watching this know from you what is the issue. People are saying, look, we have a lot of homeless in Yonkers. We go around and we see them. But the mayor is inviting people, the undocumented illegals that just came to the United States, to Yonkers. Is that a fact?
No, I haven't invited anybody. Certainly not going to invite someone to be homeless. I want people to come and live in our community, and that's always been my focus. But at the end of the day, we all know that in urban centers, homelessness is an issue. And I will tell you this, we have not sat back and just let it go. And I would challenge anyone to look at our waterfront and see that the number of homeless is extremely low by comparison to what it used to be. And why is it? Because we've been very proactive. Even though the homeless and making sure that homeless individuals are getting their services is something that's supposed to be provided by Westchester government, we don't just rely on Westchester. Listen, we appreciate what they do, and we appreciate your Department of Social Services efforts, but we know that more needs to be done if we are to be successful. We have homeless outreach, police officers in our police department, something that the local property taxpayers of Yonkers pay for. We have Project Connect, which is something that we are funding, using some federal funds, where we are partnering with West Ham, and they have individuals who actually walk through our community and have intensive the conversations with someone who may be homeless, finding out, are they taking their medicine, are they taking their medications, do they need a place to take a shower, to get a meal, how can we be helpful? The goal is always to find out what the needs are so that we can get them into the services they need, and then they don't have to be homeless anymore. And these are some of the challenges that we have, but we faced them head on. We spent $2 million on Project Connect. We asked Westchester County to take this program over. They're not sold on it yet, so we had 2,000 interactions last year with homeless people. And so we were hopeful that next year, or in this year's coming budget, December, Westchester County will take the program.
Well, Mayor, thank you for that explanation, but the question was actually not that if you invite people to become homeless, no one does that, okay? And we know that you're doing a lot for the homeless population, but the question was, I guess the point of the question is, we are helping people that never paid a cent in dollars. We're giving them a place to stay at the Ramada Hotel. They've been fed, and we have Americans right here in the city of Yonkers who paid and they don't get that assistance. Did you invite the homeless that were in New York City to Yonkers? How did that came about? Because that's what people are thinking.
No,
that
no,
you
it's
told
true.
them, come here, we can do whatever.
No, you know what? When New York City announced that they were going to send, some asylum seekers to Yonkers, I was pretty upset. Listen, I'm not upset about immigrants. You know, we're an immigrant city. My grandparents were immigrants.
The only difference,
the
some got
immigrants
here earlier
is
than
not-
others.
Yeah, right. And people got here, as we all know, lots of different ways. Some the right way, some maybe not the right way. But that's not my issue. My issue is that New York City, well, first, my issue is with the federal government, because they're not doing what they need to do to secure the borders. They're just not. Maybe as a Democrat, you're not supposed to say that, but they're not. If they were, we wouldn't have this 100,000 people shipped up to us. I mean, imagine what's happening even further south in this country. So the federal government's not doing what they need to do. New York State gave $1 billion to New York City to help them with their migrant issues. But you know what? What did they do with that money? Oh, they shipped people to other communities, like Yonkers. I was critical of the federal government, I was critical of New York State, and I was critical of New York City. And I said, hey, you just bring people here into a community, it could be as many as 100 families, where there's 100 rooms there, and you think that somehow the residents of our city can absorb this. And you give us the school children that are associated with 100 families, and it could be a real budget buster for us, and could really adversely quality of life of the residents of our city. So I held them accountable. New York City has not sent too many school-age children to us. Right now, we have 10. And so we're monitoring that. Right now, we have, I think, 50 rooms that are occupied. So that's probably, probably over 50 families. And we don't have any issues with that are coming from the Ramada. In other words, you don't have homelessness coming from the Ramada. That's all coming from the traditional places. We had a number of, in the very beginning, of 911 calls that were coming from the Ramada, where people were looking for health care. We worked with West Tab and our community partners to calm that down. We don't have that anymore. We've not had any issues with the individuals. So, and as long as that's the case, then you know what, we'll continue to treat the immigrant population as guests, as we always do, because that's what we are here in Yonkers. But that doesn't mean I'm letting anybody get away with it. I'm not letting New York City get away with it. I'm not letting the state of New York get away, and I'm not letting the owner of the Ramada get away with it, because they have not even paid us the taxes that we're entitled to get paid. They don't pay the sales tax. They don't pay the hotel occupancy tax. That's costing us tens of thousands of dollars, and probably over $200,000 so far. So not only are we not getting a little extra, which I've asked for, we're not getting what we're entitled to. And for that, well, I'm suing the Ramada. I'm suing them for this money because they're there longer than 30 days, which is against our local code. So I want them to be accountable to our local laws, and that's why we're in court.
Some residents of Yonkers are talking about crime in relationship to the undocumented that are here in Yonkers. I hear from very reliable sources that we didn't have any. There is no crime at Ramada. There is no crime involving those guys at Ramada. So is these people that just trying to create friction, or do we have any data to prove that?
No, there's no crime coming out of the Ramada. There really isn't. I mean, we had one incident with a family that left their child with another family at the Ramada. They went a couple of days. I guess they went to hang out somewhere in New Jersey. They stayed for like 2 days. By that point, the family that was holding the baby turned the baby over to CPS. That obviously became an issue, right? So, but that so far it's been the only real big issue that come out of there. And you know what? Yeah, we're not. The issues of crime in our city and across this country are really in large part due to three things. You know, especially in the upstate. Just coming out of COVID, and if you all remember, while we were on lockdown, there wasn't all that much crime happening because everybody was on lockdown. And then, of course, you know, New York State raised the age and bail reform, right? Cash bail. So there are some of the things that were changed. Some of these laws that were changed provided extra challenges for our police department. But despite all that, and even with the increase that we saw in crimes related to that area, like robberies, burglaries, and you know, people stealing your car, those type of crimes, we're still the safest city, big city in New York State, and we're still one of the safest cities in America. We'll continue to deal with those challenges and continue to try and drive our numbers down. Gang violence is down, shootings are down year to year. So the violent crimes, you know, homicides are still down. We're seeing an increase in these other areas due to changes in state law, and we're dealing with it.
Now, Mayor, I always hear you doing your speeches, interviews, and just now, that crime in Yonkers is down. Every time I report on a crime, I get people.
Well, certain categories. As I said,
well,
other categories are
firing, firearms, stabbing, violent crimes I'm talking about. Every time we report on one, somebody says, yes, tell Mr. Mayor that Yonkers is one of the safest towns. Now, I understand that nowadays, crime is reported differently than it used to be 20, 30 years ago. Anything happens, Drew Ross is there filming. And that sometimes gives an illusion or optical illusion that crime is up because there is always somebody there to report. Years ago, no.
It's true.
Sometimes you went and you never knew about it. So, is crime down, Mayor? Is it really down?
Those numbers are verifiable. Those numbers, and a lot of it, like you said, is perception. A lot of it is, you know, you take this summer for instance, right? The beginning of the summer started off with a lot of rain. People say that we didn't get real nice weather to sometime during the middle of the summer. And then, middle of the summer, we had somebody in EDP down in Getty Square wielding a scissor, stabbing a couple people. Now, our police officers arrested that individual within half an hour, and everyone was brought to the hospital and we were fine. And then, of course, I think a couple days later, there was a shooting. Everyone was, oh my God, crime is out of control. No, we had 2 incidents in a very short period of time at a time when there really wasn't anything going on in the news. And so in the middle of the summer. So there was that perception. But you have to look at the numbers, you know, that shootings are down, that the violent crime in our city continues to be down and actually lower. The areas that I'm concerned about are when somebody walks into Marshalls, decides to take $1,000 worth of goods and walk out the door, we are actively pursuing these individuals, and that's driving our robbery rates up, and that's okay, because we need to protect our retailers on every part of town, because if we don't protect them, they're gonna close, and that would be the worst thing that can happen in a community like Yonkers. You're losing retailers and the ability for our families to be able to shop in our community.
Now, Mayor, as you know, we are live and people are engaging, because Yonkers Voice is the platform where we connect you and the community that you lead. So this is a time for them to ask you a question. And a question from Gilberto Reyes. About 10 years ago, the city issued $2 billion in bonds to rebuild the Yonkers Public Schools infrastructure. How is that going, sir?
Okay. So it was 10 years ago, if you remember, that I decided to push for the Rebuild Yonkers program. And I was asking for New York State to do what they did in Buffalo, in Rochester, and Syracuse. In Buffalo, they spent $2 billion and they rebuilt every single school in Buffalo, but they had not done it in Yonkers. So we didn't borrow, and I understand he might think that we didn't borrow $2 billion. We were asking New York State to put $2 billion to rebuild our schools. In the meantime, we didn't rest on that. We finally got New York State to give us the ability to build 3 new schools. We have that, and we're going to be in the process of having 2 new schools online in September. We also put $300 million into the school district while in this past 10 years in infrastructure repairs. All the different things that I have been complaining about over the years, our kids' quality of their schools, going to be able to see, they're in basements, and they're in auditoriums that are leaking, and that's the type of stuff that we need to end. And that $300 million that we used over the past 10 years has actually solved many of these problems. And so, yes, we've come a long way. We still do have we still have $1 billion need. He is right, but that can only happen if New York State does what they did for Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse. It's our turn. Take care of Yonkers.
Mayor, about a week ago, we had a police incident on the Central Avenue by the casino, where our police department showed how good they are. I'm not saying they're perfect, okay? Because look, I personally don't believe in perfection, but we have a very good police department, and most of us are very proud of how they handled the situation where the person was trying to jump into the highway. So I have somebody here congratulating you for our great police department, somebody that we all know, John Nostrom.
Yes, John.
How you doing, John?
Hey, John.
But are you happy, in general, with the overall performance of our police department?
I'm always happy with our police department and their overall performance. At least especially over the last few years. You have to look at it this way. In the environment that we've seen, especially post George Floyd, there was a lot of changes that were thrust upon police departments. And what a lot of people didn't realize is that Yonkers, several years before Floyd, was under a Department of Justice investigation, and they were threatening to take over the Yonkers Police Department from the city. And we worked with the Justice Department, and we made 100 different changes. And very much of those changes that we made, we did with community involvement. And we banned chokeholds long before George Floyd. And we did a number of changes, 100 different changes. And as a result of those changes, the Department of Justice said, all right, we don't need to take over this department. We're good. We'll monitor you and their progress, but we like the direction the department's going. And I'm paraphrasing because I'm sure, I don't know if they use those words exactly, but clearly they just decided not to, like I said, not to take over our department. And they felt we were somewhat aggressive, but they also, through their investigation, said they did not see any systemic racism. That was important. That that came out the way it did. And so, so our officers are not, as sometimes my opponent would describe them as, driving around blinders on as the city burns. I think that's somewhat of an exaggeration, but maybe, and again, maybe that isn't the exact words either, but driving around with blinders on is an exact quote. So they are very proactive police department, and they think about their work and they think of what they do, and that's what you saw happen at that bridge. They were having a conversation with people. When they watch that video, they should listen early and watch those officers close in, very, very close in on this gentleman. Little bit at a time, little bit at a time. So by the time he put his hand out, even though he put his hand out and jumped, they were close enough that they were able to grab him. They were able to do that. They did that because they were trained well, because they had the right attitude, and they were able to buy this guy's trust, at least to get close enough to him. Now, you know, he still jumped at the moment, but it was their ability to put themselves in the right place at the right time that saved his life, and frankly, may have saved the life of somebody who was driving down that highway too.
You know, Mayor, I'm not sure if you remember this or if you even know about this one. This is not the first time the police department does that. I actually live streamed something very similar to that on Tucker Hole all the way down. And actually the person jumped, and I captured that on camera. The person jumped when the police just pulled them over.
You know what? I actually forgot about that one. You know what? That's right. This is the second jumper. I mean, geez, we don't want too many.
Yeah, we don't want too many.
You know,
but our police is trained. That was at that last second that the person's about to jump and the officer just grabbed them and pulled them in. So that one, I was there and I saw it. Mayor, you are a union man, or at least not a union man. You're not union man, are you?
No, the mayor,
not the mayor. Right?
Every union I say,
Not yet. We never know about it.
No.
But you understand.
It's elected office.
I know. I'm just breaking it a little bit. But you understand labor. You understand union, and you have worked with men. I have covered a few friction between your administration, the fire department, the police department. They have now a contract, but CSEA are the last union without a contract. I received this question. They said, look, we need to know why the mayor is not settling this contract with CSEA. Why is it?
Well, you know, as you can see, my relationship with labor has, you know, I think it's a good, solid, healthy relationship. Now, what does that mean? Well, I think if you talk to our men and women in our workforce, they'll say they respect the administration. We want a solid government. We're not running a government deficit. We're not threatening layoffs every year. And every union has a contract. For the most part, we have 2 unions left. We are in negotiations with CSEA. Alberto is a great leader, and we're talking. And and I fully expect that we'll have a contract soon with CSEA. And,
what is soon, sir?
Well, you know, they don't really.
Do you have an idea, timeline,
you know
time frame?
We're probably. I would say that we are weeks away.
Weeks away.
Yeah, I would say we're weeks away. But you know, but when you do stories about, you know, there being stress with the administration, you know, that's the way our founding fathers and mothers wanted it. You know, they expect a little bit of stress, because if you don't, that means they get everything they want, right? And so I don't think, I think what you want to do is you want to be in a position where they get what they need, they get what they should get. At the same time, we have to balance that off against what the taxpayers can afford. And that's always the struggle that we have back and forth. What can the taxpayers afford? And you know, our union heads, I love our union heads, but they are very much focused on their members.
And their members, should be,
and they want, that's right. And they're going to make sure that they get everything they want. And my job is, yes, for the safe well-being of our membership, but I always have to remember the bosses. The bosses are the taxpayers. And they expect that I'm going to push back. I'm going to push back and get the best deal for the taxpayers I can possibly get.
Somehow CSEA feels that they are always the last ones to get the contract, at least for the last few years. And they say it's time that we get what we deserve. Because you always talk about the foundation, education, but the workers, they need and they expect a contract.
We did some really good things for CSEA in the last contract go around. I realized that some of the lowest paid employees are our CSEA workers. I also realized that our CSEA workers, by and large, live in Yonkers. And so those are two things that are always in my mind. But I don't want anyone to think that somehow CSEA is getting a raw deal. They're not. They're at the table. There are discussions, and they're fruitful discussions, and I fully expect that we'll have a contract. I have a great relationship with CSEA. I want to make sure I keep that.
So it's a matter of weeks, you say.
It's a
give
matter,
or take.
Yes.
Mayor, you have done lots of things in regards to green initiatives. You want to tell us a little bit about that? What is that entitles?
You know, it just means that we're going to focus on the things that matter for, if we're going to do our part to help deal with global warming, right? We know that here in Yonkers, New York, whatever we do isn't going to solve global warming. But I think that if everyone does what they're supposed to do, and that includes Yonkers, then we'll be able to start to see maybe reversing the effects of what's happening out there. And we do things like, for instance, deal with environmental injustices, some of the redlined areas in our city that if you drive through, you'll see there just aren't enough trees. Something, right? Just there isn't enough open space. So we plant 2 trees in the traditionally redlined areas. That's our policy. For every 1 tree we plant outside that line. We have put, with the city council's support, tens of millions of dollars and rebuilt our parks, expanded our parks. We have a new terraced park over on Wilburton Avenue. We have rebuilt our parks down here in South Yonkers. We are going to be opening up a brand new park at the foot of Lower Street, a 3-acre park. It's going to give our kids access to Hudson River. Something, and I was born and raised in Southwest Yonkers. I never had access to Hudson River. Our kids are going to have access to Hudson River in a place where they can play ball, hang out, just sit by the water and enjoy, and just enjoy the view of the Palisades or what's happening on the Hudson River. There is just so much potential there, and we're finally taking advantage of that potential. What we've built along the water's edge, all the housing that people want to see, and we'll finally see it all built, we made sure that every single development had a waterfront amenity. There's a walk, there is a path, a dock, an esplanade, where you can just walk from development to development, and it all connects. It all connects. We're going to see to the major part of those connections happen with Avalon Bay and with Rose Construction, and of course working with Westchester County, ESAC. That's all going to connect to what we've already done. It's going to be great for the city.
Mayor, what have you done to improve the public housing? I know about remodulation that's been happening, but what have you done in a nutshell? We cannot go for hours, but...
No, you know what it is? A couple of things real quick. We authorized 12,500 units of housing. 22% of those units are affordable. But we also know that we have our municipal housing stock. It's 2,000 units of municipal housing. Slow bombs, right? School Street. And so what we did very, very early on was we said, we're going to make sure that when the tide goes up in the harbor, that all the boats go up with it. And we're going to make sure that all the different amenities that they're getting along the water's edge, that the people who are living in our, especially the municipal housing stock, are getting the same types of amenities. So we built every unit with very few exceptions. I think maybe there's about a handful left that have to be rebuilt. But we rebuilt every unit. New paint, new bathrooms, new dishwashers, air conditioning when we can. Um, like I said, having a facility that you can wash your clothes, having updated heating system, having updated park outside or a park or next to the development. And that's what we've seen in development after development. That's what we're seeing. We even went as far as to go and put a water top roof, an amenity on the roof in some of our developments. Sure, because you know what? Every new development has a room, right, where people go up to the top and sit there and enjoy the views of the Hudson River. And we want to make sure that some of the developments in Yonkers had that as well, and we were successful. At least 2 projects to make that happen.
Mayor, equity and inclusion in the city. What is that? What does that mean to the general public out there that they hear this term, but what does that actually mean? What does it?
It means having a seat at the table. I think that's the simplest term. For the longest time, the Board of Education, didn't really have someone who was Latino, who spoke the language, active in the administration. And one of the things that we said early on was that we were going to change that. We brought in Dr. Posada. Dr. Posada is probably the best superintendent we've ever had, but he also is Latino, and he can communicate super well. And he had immediate trust and a bond with the community. And I really believe that it was that really was the catalyst behind getting buy-in on the programs that we wanted to have in our schools and getting our schools to start to achieve greater numbers. And that's really what we want to do. And whether it be housing, whether it's your government, we want to have people in positions that represent the mosaic, this beautiful, diverse community we have. We want to have people in positions that are representative of that. And yeah, it's a little harder sometimes. It requires a little more work, but it is something that is achievable. And I really like to say that if you look at my administration in its entirety, and you'll see that it's a much more diverse administration than we've ever seen in Yonkers. You see that also in the level of our police department and our teamsters and our fire department team. And where civil service doesn't work for us, sometimes it doesn't, in terms of trying to make a more diverse population, we put in programs like Be the Change, where we have gone into the school, identified children, especially young men and women of color, and said, how can we get you to want to be a part of the change, be the change, in terms of having a good police department that is reflective of the people that they are sworn to serve and protect.
So you guys heard about that term. Be the change you want to see. Be part of it. Mayor, I've been living in Yonkers for 40 years. I have seen Yonkers at the lowest, and I have seen Yonkers now. Once you decide to move on into whatever path you decide to go, and we think about the Mayor Mike Spano, how would you like your legacy to be? What would you like that image to be?
I want it to be, it's very simple. I want it to be that I left the city in a better place than what I inherited is. And that's really what it is. You want to be able to say, you did a good enough job to lead the place, to lead the city in better shape than what it was when you inherited it. And that's my goal every day. We said that we would work really hard to achieve these things, and we have. And we've been able to change the way people think. I think if you had one thing that I could point to, which is, I feel like people are proud to say they're from Yonkers, New York again. And if we can just say that, that speaks volumes about everything else we're doing. And that's my hope, that when I leave, they'll feel the same way.
So, we could not conclude this interview without me asking you the question that you're not going to answer. But I am going to anyway. Mayor, you are a young man. You have 4 more years if you are reelected. And I'm sure that you have already planned the future. What's coming next?
No, you do. You give me a lot more credit than I probably deserve. Because I have been focused primarily on this election. Is there something past this? I'm not really sure. I know there is just so much stuff to do. We got to get these studios built. We got to get these parks built. We have we have Yonkers Raceway. Yonkers Raceway is such it's pretty intense because it's not just getting a full gaming, but it's getting a tax structure out of Albany that will be to the benefit of the taxpayers, and then it's us negotiating with MGM to get a community benefits package that is helpful to the residents of our city. And so it's making sure that MGM and making sure that those TV studios are also doing community benefits, like building this high school with us so that our kids have the opportunity to get into a union and have 6-figure jobs. There is so much work left for us that it's hard for me to think beyond this. But I will say this:
I understand.
I'm pretty confident that I really am that this is. I probably will go back to the taxpayers and ask for a 5th term. I think it's.
You said you're not sure?
No, I said I'm pretty confident I will go back to them. I will. I just realized that it's hard to say that considering that I told you I wouldn't run again.
Twice.
But like I said, I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for COVID. There were just too many things left to get finished up. And again, and just Yonkers Raceway in itself is a pretty monumental task. I've been working on that since I was in the city legislature. And like I said, and if we just leave it in the hands of a newbie, Yonkers could get cut short from Albany. Or if we leave it in the new hands of a newbie, we could get cut short by the MGM. I'm not going to let either one of them happen because I've been in Albany and I've been here, and I know that my job is to get the best deal with taxpayers I can possibly get.
So those negotiations are much more complex than actually meets the eye.
Oh, and it's all happening now. It's been happening. And like I said, and a lot of it's happening at the same time. So, they're negotiating with New York State for a license, and will Yonkers get that license? New York State could very easily go, you know what, we're going to take these 3 new licenses we have, and we'll give them to 3 new casinos, and we'll just keep Yonkers Raceway the way it is. Well, that would be unacceptable. That's certainly not something that will work for us, because then I don't know what becomes of Yonkers Raceway. And so these are the things you have to keep your eye on, and keep your eye on that, but also remember, you got to negotiate with MGM for the right benefits package. We want to make sure that there's money to help local businesses, money to help our kids in our schools, make sure that there's additional funding for impacts, what they call impact fees, police, fire, sanitation, our roads that are impacted by 9 million people a year come visit Yonkers Raceway today. Now, what's going to happen when they're full gaming? So there's lots of moving parts here, and someone has to keep their eye on the ball, and I believe that I'm best capable at this point to do that.
Well, if you agree with the mayor, Mike Spano, November 7th is the day to make that decision. The last question is, term limit is on the ballot.
Well, it's not.
Well, what I mean is, people who don't agree with the term limit, that's when they are going to speak against it by voting. Yes. You want to say anything on that, sir?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, because there is a term limits line, but that's just a political line. We know that. But yeah, you know what? I have never been in favor of term limits, as anyone will know. They ask, and frankly, my opponent has been. I think he was for term limits before he was against term limits, and now he's for it again. I think it really pretty much depends on whether or not he's going to come back. So, and kind of use that issue as a wedge. But I always remind people that elections are term limits. People can come out November and vote anybody out of office they want. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that people have a choice. And that it should not be some artificial means law that's put in place to limit their choice. It should be people's choice. There's no purer way to do that than there is by using election day to make that choice.
And to conclude this interview, we're going to give the mayor an opportunity to do the closing, Mayor, if you wish to, or...
Thank you so much. Let me just say thank you for doing this show today, and always going in deep and asking a lot of the questions. Sometimes the hard questions too, but it is a pleasure for me to be here. I'm just going to really put it to you really simple. I have served the people of Yonkers. I love being there. I couldn't think of a better position to be in my lifetime. And I also know that we've been able to do some really wonderful things in changing our city in the past decade. You know, when it comes to our schools, when it comes to the economic development, when it comes to our police department, and there's just so much more work to do. It comes to a cleaner environment and moving our city forward. Yonkers is going through a renaissance, and I'm hopeful that with your support, I'll be able to continue to work for the residents of our city for the next 4 years.
Your vote counts, your vote matters. Don't forget November 7th is the day. Make sure you come out and vote, but you can do even better. You can vote early. So thank you, until next time.